Confrontations between criminal groups in the USA are no secret to anyone. The infamous Crips and Bloods and their endless conflict run like a red thread not only through the lives of black neighborhoods and ghettos, but also through the entirety of American hip-hop. It would seem impossible to imagine clashes more brutal than those organized by guys with red or blue bandanas. However, the old world, specifically England, can rival the USA in this regard, if that can even be said. The fact is, real crime, including constant murders, is not just common for the English rap scene but also an integral part of it. Naturally, drill is a derivative of all these criminal showdowns. 7 years ago, a British court made an unprecedented decision. A group of rappers preparing an attack on musicians from a neighboring neighborhood was banned from performing drill. At the same time, this musical trend, which took over global charts 3 years later, faced a real crackdown. Why? Simply because the gang clashes in London led to so many deaths that the state could no longer tolerate it. Thus, drill came under fire. In this video, we'll tell you about the terrifying lives of drill artists in English suburban neighborhoods. Well, let's get started. In the summer of 2018, rappers from the London gang 1011 ended up behind bars. The police spotted the author of almost all the group's lyrics, 17-year-old Reese Herbert. He looked highly suspicious. His face was completely hidden by a black mask, and something metallic glinted in his hand. Upon seeing the police, Herbert took off running. When he was caught, a machete was found hidden in his pants leg. In the car Herbert arrived in, there were 3 more people: 21-year-old Jonas Germa, 17-year-old Jordan Badeau, and 18-year-old Isaac Marshall. They were armed with machetes and baseball bats and were preparing to put on balaclavas. The only one missing was Badeau's older brother, 19-year-old Mickey, known to 1,011 fans by the nickname Horrid One. He was found on the stairwell outside an apartment, also with a machete, a knife, and a balaclava. All 5 were charged with conspiracy to cause grievous bodily harm and sent to prison. The detainees claimed they had no malicious intentions. According to them, the knives and masks were needed for shooting a new music video. However, the police knew this was not the case.
Free peace in the back Kentucky. ST and banks went live, so I got round instantly.
Researchers from London South Bank University estimate that there are about 250 street gangs in London, involving approximately 4,500 members. Despite their small numbers, they are implicated in 50% of shootings, 22% of serious violent crimes, and 17% of robberies occurring in their territories. Often, street gangs lack clear structure, and their members are not professional criminals but teenagers from the city's poorest neighborhoods with nowhere else to go but the streets. In most cases, this is not organized crime in the traditional sense, but rather hooligan groups. They steal mobile phones from passers-by, rob couriers, and sometimes sell illegal substances. However, defending their neighborhood from rivals matters more to them than money. For those involved with street gangs, it's dangerous to show up in a rival's neighborhood. At best, they might be beaten, but if they're unlucky, they could be killed. Locals learn to fight back from childhood and always carry knives. It's hard to get firearms in England. Territorial boundaries are determined by postal codes, so the British press has dubbed these clashes post-code wars. Knives are one of the most common weapons in gang wars. However, legal restrictions on owning knives aim to limit their use for criminal purposes. Under UK law, it is illegal to own a prohibited knife or weapon, import knives into the UK, sell, rent, lend, or gift a prohibited knife or weapon to anyone, and carry a knife in public without good reason, unless it has a folding blade shorter than 3 inches. It is also illegal to sell knives to anyone under 18 years old, unless the knife has a folding blade shorter than 3 inches, and to use a knife in a threatening manner. Prohibited knives include butterfly knives, disguised knives, flick knives, knives with hidden blades, sword sticks, cyclone or spiral knives, and buckle knives. Despite these knife regulations, which are less stringent than those for firearms, they have not significantly reduced crime rates in London. Data from the ONS and the Ministry of the Interior identify 5 main regions in England with the highest levels of gun and knife crime: London, West Midlands, Yorkshire, and the Humber, North West and North East. London recorded the highest number of gun and knife crimes among all regions. Between April 2019 and March 2020, there were 15,930 knife crimes per 100,000 people in London. In 2012, London gangs became fascinated with drill, a hip-hop trend originating in Chicago. A few years later, nearly every gang had members creating drill music. Lyrics are primarily braggadocious and aggressive jabs at neighboring gangs. Tracks are filled with the slang of postcode wars and distinctive jargon you might also hear in tracks by American rappers. Showy feuds have always been part of hip-hop, but in London drill, conflicts take center stage. Gang members post YouTube videos threatening rivals, argue with them in the comments, then grab knives, hop on mopeds, and go settle scores in person. The entire neighborhood eagerly watches these events unfold. Everyone knows who insulted whom and discusses the gang's score. how many people it has stabbed. In the video below, you can see a clash involving the 1011 gang, with participants holding long knives. By 2018, music videos by the group 67, considered one of the leaders of the genre, were gaining millions of views on YouTube. Its members went on tours, and one of their tracks was licensed for a viral Beats headphones commercial. Despite this success, they continued to openly feud with the neighboring gang 150.
Mommy said, son, get a job. I said, Mom, the Benz I can make. In with chips, you know.
The group Harlem Spartans, which caught the attention of Drake, is at war with the group 410, whose members live nearby. Moscow 17 from Walworth, whose members call themselves Russians, feud with Zone 2 from Peckham, who once managed to secretly film a video on Moscow 17's territory. Meanwhile, 12 World from Shepherd's Bush can't stand 1011, the same guys with machetes and balaclavas who were arrested in November, and they have every reason for their animosity.
Dip man down, make him drown in his blood. No, boom, never left that trap till I found that grub.
A closer look at the group 1011 perfectly illustrates the life of drill groups in the UK. The collective seemed to be on the rise, hundreds of thousands of views on YouTube, decent income from streaming services like Spotify, and even an offer to collaborate from the famous label Polydor Records, which has worked with Lana Del Rey and Elton John. But success aside, leaving the gang was not an option. In April 2017, 19-year-old rapper T-Wiz from 12 World, a longtime enemy of 1011, was killed. Two unknown men ambushed him near his home. He ran into an alley but was caught, stabbed, and left behind. By the time his older brother and friends arrived, it was too late. T-Wiz died in the hospital that same day. No one doubted the killers were linked to 1011, whose members didn't even bother hiding their glee. In their new tracks, T-Wiz's death was mentioned in the most insulting manner. Even fans of drill music thought that this time 1011 had gone too far. In response, 12 World confronted Mickey Bedeau's grandmother, Mickey being from 1011, when she ended up in their neighborhood. They didn't harm the woman but recorded a video insulting her and then directly addressed their enemies. The video made its way to 1011 via Snapchat before being uploaded to YouTube. At the trial, detained members of the gang admitted they were intercepted by the police while heading out to avenge their grandmother with machetes and baseball bats. Let's also talk about the group Moscow 17, whose story vividly illustrates the lives of drill groups in the UK. The group formed following the release of rapper Incognito's track Rico in 2015.
Running around my town like I'm Rico. Free the niggas that they got up on free flow.
In the video featured on Pac-Man TV, guys from Peckham and the neighboring area appeared, including members of the Zone 2 group. This track became notable because shortly after its release, a real war broke out between Moscow 17 and Zone 2. The conflict between these two groups became one of the loudest beefs in the history of British drill. The very name Moscow is a slang nickname for the Brandon Estate social housing complex south of Kennington Park. Members of the group are considered the younger generation of Brandon Estate, which is analogous to American ghettos. In 2016, members of Moscow 17 got to work. On the same Pac-Man TV, GB and Screw Loose released a clip titled Violence.
Trap and bang, the pack's my slang. It's also chat, like them man don't chat them.
The group made their mark in the history of British drill with the banger Moscow March.
P got dread time too, it's mad, full man face 20 and them man they dashed. Bang a slang.
It became one of the first drill tracks to gain over 1 million views. This clip was included in the list of 50 videos removed from YouTube at the initiative of the British authorities, which we'll discuss later. The resonance in the London underground scene from this track was enormous. Near Zone 2, which by that time had already become quite an authoritative group in their native Peckham, a group capable of either overshadowing them or putting up a serious fight emerged. Moreover, the conflict between them was reaching a boiling point. The success of Moscow March attracted the attention of Tim Westwood, and soon Westwood invited the young group to crib session. Fearing for her son's life due to a series of deaths and constant clashes on the streets of London, the mother of group member GB sent him to Jamaica. Before leaving, GB managed to release 2 tracks. Tizzy T also went on the run. After the premiere of the single Friggy, Incognito was arrested on murder charges. Maskey managed to make the loudest statement. The newcomer recorded a joint track with Losky from Harlem Spartans titled Mummy's Kitchen. Moscow 17, mired in conflicts, eventually lost one of their 2 brightest members. On May 5th, 2018, at the age of 17, GB was killed in London after returning from Jamaica. The death of GB shocked the entire British drill scene, and many paid tribute to the young man who became a victim of street warfare. In honor of their departed friend, the group released the track Did You See?
Did you see what Moscow done? Came with a force, but got left with a pub. Came with a gang, got left on my one.
Ironically, Incognito's final track was Blessed, dedicated to GB. In August 2018, Incognito himself was killed.
One sec, why is he talking all this was? Teddy, big man, relax.
Opponents of London drill are convinced that it not only reflects but also fuels hostility between street gangs. For example, the head of London's police believes drill is one of the reasons for the surge in crime in the city. In 2017, the number of murders in London increased by 44%. More than 20 young people died from knife wounds, with 4 stabbed to death on New Year's Eve. The situation didn't improve in 2018. In the first 5 months of the year, more than 60 people were killed in the British capital. According to the courts, the vivid threats made by drill performers are not just empty words. In 2017, 17-year-old Junior Simpson, who rapped under the pseudonym M-Trap Zero, stabbed a 15-year-old teenager who, according to police, wasn't even connected to street gangs. One of the pieces of evidence in court was a track in which Simpson described a similar murder. The young rapper was sentenced to life imprisonment. This wasn't the only high-profile murder linked to drill. In 2017, a group of guys on mopeds stopped 22-year-old musician Dean Pascal Modeste, who was heading to a recording studio. He noticed one of them had a gun and ran into an alley but was caught and stabbed 14 times. Police managed to catch 2 of the killers, 20-year-old Devin Pusey and 18-year-old Kay Stewart. It turned out both had appeared in a music video for a drill group. Together, they were sentenced to 37 years in prison. In court, members of 1011 agreed to confess in exchange for reduced charges. Even after their release, they will be banned from performing music that authorities consider to promote violence. The court ruled that from now on, 1011 members cannot mention their own or rival gangs in their lyrics, nor even postal codes. Moreover, they will not be allowed to sing about T-Wiz, a murdered rapper from 12 World. The police will monitor compliance with the court's requirements, and the group must notify authorities in advance of every performance or new recording. This was just the beginning. In 2018, drill was declared at war. Scotland Yard compiled a detailed database containing information on nearly 1,500 clips that gangs upload online. People appearing in music videos could be prohibited from associating with certain individuals, visiting specific places, or even using social media. Let's talk about another case in Newham, a district of London. In July 2016, a fight broke out between 2 gangs from different parts of Newham. The 2 sides of the conflict were Young Diz, real name Isaac Donko, who led the ACG gang and was known as the Devil for his violent drill lyrics.
Do a drill and repent. 4-man, 3 shanks on the up block, 24-inch, will leave.
His opponent was CB, real name Lakan Akinsoji, who led the rival Woodgrange Estate gang in Forest Gate.
Yeah, we put corn in clips. How many times did we take them trips? I was walking around with a 3-8 spin.
Murders, fierce knife attacks, shootings, and violent incursions into enemy territory all were part of the new gang war. Both gangs grew in reputation and numbers. Donko was especially skilled at recruiting young people from Newham. Court documents describe him as a charismatic recruitment sergeant who lured teenagers with free meals. In the summer of 2017, the gangs clashed with knives inside the Westfield shopping center in Stratford. 2 weeks later, 14-year-old schoolboy Corey Jr. CJ Davis was fatally shot in the head near a playground in Forest Gate. The murder remains unsolved. Retaliatory attacks between the gangs escalated. Ultimately, 2 bold acts of violence brought down their leaders. In July 2018, a stolen BMW driven by Akinzoji was caught by police. Cornered 23-year-old Akinzoji was arrested after he aimed a sawn-off shotgun at officers while wearing a clown mask. 2 weeks later, Donko led a group that kidnapped and tortured a 16-year-old boy. Donko and 3 accomplices were sentenced to 23 years in prison. Police sources estimate that around 20 gangs operate in Newham. Insiders estimate that there are about 5,000 soldiers linked to gangs in Newham, many of whom say they see no other way to earn a reputation or money. More than half of the children in Newham live in poverty.
Someone's turned the streets of London into some dumb game, knife game. Yeah, and every once in a while, everyone plays it and someone dies. And that's the sad reality about it, right? Majority of fights could be sorted if people use their fist. However, nobody uses their fist, right? And it's just as simple as that. Like, people have, do you know what I mean? It's just as simple as that. Like, there's a game going on the streets of London. And it's not even a points. It's not even a points thing. It's nothing to do with the points. Like, forget points. It's just a game, right? The whole carrying knives thing is a game. Because I'll be honest with you, do you think majority of people that have stabbed somebody and he died wanted to kill him? Is that what you think? I know a lot of people Not proud of it. But I know a lot of people who unfortunately are spending a long time out of their life in prison. A long time out of their life in prison. And I speak to them. They ain't proud of it.
The previous London knife crime strategy, which was in effect from 2017 to 2021, focused on introducing classical music in fast food restaurants like KFC and McDonald's to create a calming atmosphere, or so its creators claimed. The idea that music plays a role in the rise of violence seems evident and assumes that offenders spend a lot of time in fast food restaurants. This strategy also emphasized that arresting and convicting criminals was not enough and that crime could be curbed through preventive measures at home and in school. Other important areas included media and influencers who were tasked with making online spaces safe for children. Despite this strategy, knife and gun violence continued to grow. A research report by British MP Sian Berry highlights a series of cuts to youth services over the last 10 years. It shows that from 2011 to 2021, the annual budget for youth services was slashed by approximately £36 million. 600 youth worker positions were eliminated by London councils, and over 130 youth centres were closed. All of this, as you can imagine, creates fertile ground for crime growth amidst unemployment. The CEO of the charity Ben Kinsella Trust, which fights crime in England, stated that the rise in crimes, including knife-related ones, is not a surge but a process observed over a decade, as well as a significant social issue. He explained, "Youth workers perform crucial work in engaging young people and setting them on the right path, introducing them to positive mentors and adults. Young people believe that a knife can protect them. It doesn't. It only puts them in even greater danger."
Although guns are easy to source, knives are still the bigger problem. We hear more deaths happening from knives than gunshots for sure. Maybe because the laws around knives aren't that regulated, because they say if you carry a knife you go to prison for 4 years, but then I hear people getting 3, 4, 5 warnings. So people aren't really taking the law seriously. And nowadays, when you hear about someone being stabbed, it's a younger against a younger. Olders don't get involved with stuff like that. And these youngers are not going to be able to get hold of a gun unless they steal it from someone or steal it from the trap house, for example. For any under 18-year-old to get a knife, it's as easy as going onto Amazon and clicking something for next day delivery and it gets delivered. It's not regulated. I know even on Snapchat, there are accounts on Snapchat every day where they say, hey, we have 5 machetes, we have 5 army knives with knuckle dusters attached to it. Who wants this? I've seen axes with chains. Why are they making these things? Why are they not asking for proof of ID? Some websites might say you must be over 18 to buy this. That has never deterred anyone under 18 to say, okay, I shouldn't do this. They don't know that by making that sale and then delivering it to that house, that young person goes and kills someone here.
For the police and the prosecution service, the immediate spread of videos by certain groups on social media means that they witness how violent disputes quickly escalate into physical violence. Recently released guidelines for London prosecutors noted that gangs are increasingly using drill music and social media to promote their culture. They point to diss videos, for example, in which rivals mock each other. In December 2018, 5 young people were charged with the murder of a 17-year-old boy in Nottingham over a dispute fueled by a drill video. Lyric Steed mocked rivals, calling them the athlete gang because they ran away from fights.
See the gums, my bros way too saucy, got the man them looking expensive. Drones everywhere.
In response, he was lured into a park and stabbed several times. A few days later, one of his alleged killers, Kashan Campbell, was seen in a video where he supposedly rapped about the attack. He and another person were convicted of murder. 3 teenagers were found guilty of manslaughter. It is not my job to comment on your or anyone else's taste in music, the judge told the defendants. But this case is about knife-related murder, and many of these songs are about killings. In June 2019, London police created Project Alpha, under which officers from the Organised Crime Unit analyze social media for evidence or intelligence on crimes. This includes monitoring drill videos where gangs openly call each other out to war. New data provided by the BBC shows that since November 2016, London police made 579 requests to remove potentially harmful content from social media platforms. 522 of these were taken down, mostly from YouTube.
These gang wars started because people started to become greedy. People were looking for power, people were looking for just to be significant, and also people wanted to rise up. Postcode wars are also named interstate wars. This is something that started even in the 60s, 70s, which areas became smaller or bigger, and it's a way of protecting territory. Now there are things called block wars, estate wars, which are even within the same postcode. There is such rivalry, there is such demand for who is more important. So it goes from area, postcode, now to blocks.
Defenders of drill music and rap in the UK argue that it is an art form that should not be taken literally. It uses violent language and imagery, but as one lawyer points out, the Rolling Stones sang, "I'll stick my knife right down your throat, baby." But that doesn't mean Mick Jagger was associated with gangs. Ethna Quinn, a lecturer at the University of Manchester, has expressed concern about using drill music as evidence. She has served as a defense expert in nearly 20 trials and says that jurors are often shown videos of young people in balaclavas and masks rapping about attacks and drug dealing. Dr. Quinn notes that drill rap is a very violent form of expression. It is designed to shock. The music is meant to push away parents. However, she emphasizes that the provocative posturing of rappers is part of a popular genre that cannot be taken literally. It has no place in a courtroom, says Dr. Quinn, who created the Prosecuting Rap project to raise awareness about the dangers of using drill music and rap as evidence. She acknowledges that there are isolated cases where drill provoked violence, but argues that drill is used in many cases, and while it may initially seem that there is a correlation between rap and an act of violence, upon closer examination, it does not hold up to scrutiny. The BBC reviewed nearly 70 court cases across the UK since 2005 where drill and rap were used as evidence. Most of them occurred in the last 2 years and often involved rappers. Many included murder charges. The overwhelming majority of defendants were young black men and boys. A total of 232 people were brought to trial in 67 cases. Only 8 of them were women. Almost half were teenagers. We must be seriously concerned about what is happening in our courts, says Abena Osubempa, an expert in criminal evidence from the London School of Economics. She identified 30 cases that were appealed. Only one was successful. For prosecutors, this indicates the reliability and significance of such evidence. Of course, there are exceptions in the drill industry. Rapper Rosca Onya was 17 when he was convicted of firearm offences in 2010 after being arrested in a taxi by police in southeast London. Officers found a loaded gun. This was before UK drill began to gain popularity, but prosecutors used videos of his raps on YouTube as evidence of his gang affiliation.
I hear them talking about broad day bootings, banging on who, bruv, you.
During an appeals court hearing, judges had to consider whether the videos were part of art or part of the life of warring gangs in South London. In November 2010, the judges ruled that the videos were relevant despite being filmed 6 months before the crime, as they helped jurors understand the character of the accused. His sentence was upheld, and he spent more than 9 years in prison, where he underwent rehabilitation and therapy. Initially confronted with violence, having grown up in the Democratic Republic of Congo, he says that older guys recruited him into street gangs immediately after his arrival in the UK. He acknowledges that police must protect the public and does not deny his involvement in crimes, but he says his youthful raps were unfairly used against him in court. Now, at age 33, out of prison, Onya uses rap to rebuild his damaged life. Music is a tool for many people to cope with hardships, he says.
When I was in the trenches, Prince told me chill, Ross, you go have patience.
Of course, it would be wrong to say that such problems are unique to London. In other parts of England, police officers are expending no less energy trying to quell the wars between gangs and groups. The Excalibur police team was initially created in 2004 by Manchester Police to combat gun-related crimes, but over time, it shifted its focus to tackling teenagers carrying knives. Police data from the city shows that more than 400 people under the age of 25 suffered stab wounds during the 12 months from 2023 to 2024. Excalibur was established in response to a notorious period in Manchester's history when the city earned the nickname Gunchester due to the prevalence of firearms among gangs. The team's work is concentrated in the Trafford area and South Manchester. Excalibur is now well known in these communities and even mentioned in drill music videos, which police officers review for intelligence. They say Excalibur runs the area, notes one of the detectives.
Talk about shh, but I swear that's bro. I don't wanna hear nothing about no smoke out of 10 man, 2 man, it really unfolds.
Drill music videos, which can include lyrics describing acts of violence and recent attacks, are used by Excalibur to monitor the situation in the city. A detective from the team notes, some gangs in our areas wear different colored bandanas. Some of these groups are genuinely talented and produce good music videos. 20 years ago, we wouldn't be watching YouTube to track local gangs. But now a 5-minute video can tell us more than a 10-hour walk around the streets trying to talk to people.
Are you gonna run a whole cool with your body? And if you're whole cool with your body, I hope you know you ain't getting cool in your tummy.
And that's all for today. What do you think about UK drill? Share your thoughts in the comments, like the video, and subscribe to the channel. Bye for now.